Today I'm going to attempt a data recovery. This drive was pulled from for a client from mine. They have an IT department, so they actually just thought they could swap the board and just put a board from an alike drive in. And that actually isn't the case. So I'll go back on this here and I'll bring the board that was actually the real original board. And we're going to look at one item on this board. I'm going to zoom in on this for you just a little bit. And that is right here. This is a flash memory. So that actually has to go from the drive that had the bad board onto the new board that's working. And the reason is that contains low-level formatting information when the drive was made. So when drives are made, there's slight imperfections, slight differences in geometry and so forth. So when it's low-level formatted by the manufacturer, they write that information into that flash memory. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this flash chip and we're going to put it on this drive's board. Now this board's upside down right now, but I'm going to proceed to remove it. So let me get started by showing you the equipment that I have. I'm going to start out by showing you that I use OBS Studio to do my videos. And just a inexpensive microscope called Elkiv. I got it on Amazon. You really don't need anything fancy, just nothing really too cheap, nothing expensive. Definitely great lighting. And I actually use a Logitech Brio camera for the upper shots. And a A10 hot air station, as well as a temperature just controlled soldering iron. Doesn't really matter the brand as long as it's halfway decent. So let's begin. I'll begin by removing the board from the drive. And again, this board was replaced, but they realized that it didn't work. And most people would have that reaction just to replace the board, think they got lucky, not realizing they actually have to move chips. So this is a common mistake, probably done by a lot of IT departments because they're not electronic departments. And while I got this board off, I'm actually going to clean this here. Because that is really good to just have that clean. This drive was in a really tough environment, as well as this connector here that I'm cleaning. Again, this was actually a Windows 2000 machine that was for a fuel program that controlled delivery of fuel and did the fuel accounting for diesel fuel pumps. And again, it ran Windows 2000 and it wasn't backed up. So let's try to do this data recovery and see what happens. Okay, now I have the old board under the microscope, the chip that I want to remove. And I'm just noting here that the pin 1 with the dot on it. So this one, we got to be careful with this here, at least on the new one, because that's plastic. So I'm going to come in with the heat gun like so. And kind of aim it away from that connector. Alright, it looks like we're going to have to go in with a little bit more heat. And I'll bring this up to 400 degrees Celsius. This chip doesn't want to come out. So we'll do one other thing here. I'm going to hit this chip up with some leaded solder, decrease its melting point. Alright, I'm going to just put a little bit of leaded solder on this. And it wouldn't hurt putting a little flux on it. It's more important to put the flux on when you, not when you remove it, but actually put the connection on. Just going to use a small bottle of some chip quick flux that I got actually free, so you can't beat that. I'm going to turn on the fume extractor here. And we're going to now put some leaded solder on it. And yes, I know there's a solder ball on it, but we're just getting the chip off right now of this board. And again, that's the board that's bad, but we need the chip from it. So there's the chip. I'm going to put it aside here. And we're going to now put the board it needs to go on, or actually take the chip off of that. Put a little bit of flux on this. Maybe a little too much. And I know I have some solder balls on it. Just want to get this chip out. This is the bad chip. Okay, I removed the chip of it on each of the boards with the hot air. Again, I coated it with a little bit of solder, lead-based solder, to lower the melting point of that chip. And now I'm going to go and get some of this solder off so we don't have solder balls. Just recoat it with a little bit of lead-based solder. And we'll get the other chip in. So it looks like we do have a little bit of a solder bridge. No big deal. This looks good. Looks good. Let's give it a shot. Again, this is only a temporary repair until we can back up the data. Alright, now that the board is good, new chip soldered in, or I should say the old chip on the new board, let's put it in, give it a shot, see if it starts up. We'll go to my computer. And let's plug in the drive and see if it comes up. See if this data recovery worked or not. Says there's a problem with a disk. Typically, I don't scan the drive because that can actually wipe out data. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an image of this drive, copy all the files over via an image. And then once we have the image, then we can scan the disk and try to fix it. But as you can see, this drive now works. So this is a, well, a successful data recovery operation.